All right. My name is Daphne Kirkpatrick. I am the Business and Communications Manager at Florida Trust. It's very nice to meet you all, and thank you for being here today. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, and by the end of it, we hope you'll feel confident to submit an award nomination. All right. Our speakers today are Florida Trust Award Committee Chair, Dr. Linda Stevenson, longstanding award committee member Jody Rubin, and Laura Lee Corbett, who has submitted many nominations over the years that have received Florida Preservation Awards. So, Linda, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Daphne. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Linda Stevenson, chair of the awards committee, and I'm a preservation architect and also a lecturer at the University of Florida Historic Preservation Program.
Thank you, Linda. Jody?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Jody Rubin. I currently work for Austin Historical, which is a window restoration company in Orlando. I've been on the board for a million years and on the awards committee for almost as long. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. And Laura Lee?
Hi, good morning. I'm Laura Lee Corbett. I'm a historic preservation consultant and architectural historian. I have been in business 20 years. This year, I was formerly the Florida Main Street coordinator, and I was a reservist with the FEMA's Environmental Historic Preservation Cadre for a decade.
Wonderful, thank you. So before we jump into the Florida Trust Awards program, I wanted to briefly introduce the Florida Trust for anyone that might not be familiar with the organization. The Florida Trust was founded in 1978 to save historic treasures like the historic Florida Capitol here in Tallahassee. And since then, we have been the statewide nonprofit that promotes the preservation and inclusive sharing of the diverse architectural, historical, and archaeological heritage of Florida. We focus on four different areas, namely advocacy, connecting, education, and stewardship. And our awards program falls under our Connect pillar. We're trying to connect and recognize preservation across Florida. The program recognizes excellence in historic preservation. It honors, as we will see, a wide range of individuals, organizations, and historic preservation achievements. And nominations usually open in the start of the year in January or February and conclude by April. This year, the deadline is April 1st, so please make sure to have everything submitted by that date. And this year, we are celebrating 45 years of the Florida Preservation Awards program. The organization itself actually celebrated its 45th anniversary last year. We are very excited to have reached this milestone, and we've worked hard to revitalize the program and make it more inclusive and accessible. So I'll let Linda talk more about what's new this year and why we're so excited about this.
Yes, thank you, Daphne. So everyone, I'm really excited about some of the changes that we've made to the awards program. We've been tinkering with it for the last few years and really trying to get it to align more closely with our expanded mission. So what you'll find is that we've got generally two main categories of awards. One set of awards honors places, and the other set really focuses on people, because without the people that are doing this work, that are saving their communities, there is really not much point. So we've waived the nomination fees this year to make the program a little more accessible to a wider audience. And we've got three new categories that we'll talk about in a little bit more detail a little later.
I'm sorry about that. Here we are. All right, let's dive deep into the categories, and Linda and Jody will be our guides during this part. So Linda, would you like to go ahead and start with the Sally Jude Award?
I sure would. So Sally Jude is a pivotal figure in local and state historic preservation work for many decades. She was the founder of the Dade Heritage Trust. She was also instrumental in the creation of the Florida Trust itself. And she's known for saving a number of important landmarks, particularly in South Florida. It was her friendship and her saving of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas cottage and that long relationship that she had with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas that was the impetus for creating this particular award, which deals with resiliency. So this award is intended to honor projects that, first of all, relate to the environment and combine both preservation ethic and the environmental considerations. So it can be anything from projects that incorporate energy efficiency, particularly to green building certifications, such as LEED, such as Green Globe, such as the Living Building Challenge, and also to projects that respond to our increasing threats in the environment in Florida from climate change, sea level rise, and increased risk of flooding. And the program, the criteria for selection for the program is projects that include both compliance with the Secretary of the Interior standards of rehabilitation, as well as green building standards.
Okay. The next category is restoration, rehabilitation, or adaptive use. In the past, these categories of restoration rehab was one category and adaptive use was a second one. We've combined these not too terribly long ago, and we expect that most of the nominations will come from this area. And this has to do with recognizing the best practices for doing those work, that type of work to historic buildings or complex of buildings or in a historic district. Usually the buildings or district they have to be on the National Register or locally designated. And the project has to be completed within the last 3 years, which is pretty typical of many of our awards, that they have to be completed recently. And of course, they have to follow the Secretary of the Interior standards.
We have an award in archaeology and our sister profession in the cultural resource management world. So this award recognizes significant archaeological practices and projects and requires that the projects be done in compliance with professional and ethical standards of the profession of archaeology.
The next category is historic landscapes. Again, the restoration, preservation, and interpretation and creating educational opportunities. And these can be both natural landscapes that have been protected or design landscapes, which I like because my background is in landscape architecture. So it's awesome.
So this is one of our new award categories that we're really excited about. So the Preserving Place Award is designed to celebrate projects, people, practices that preserve cultural heritage and community identity. And there's a large component of community engagement in this particular award. And there's a list here of some potential examples, such as maybe an adaptive reuse project that's a catalyst project for revitalizing a community. Heritage trails and interpretive signage is another category. And we also like to honor Main Street for its really pivotal work in terms of revitalizing historic downtowns. And anything that really relates to cultural heritage, festivals, perhaps oral history projects that are gathering the memories of a particular community group. So that is the purpose of our new award here. We're really excited about this one.
Next category is preservation, communications, and media. We've been doing this award for a long time, recognizing outstanding communication for education. We've seen all kinds of books, websites, curricula, and interactive media. Remember, what was that game? I don't even remember. But we have seen all kinds of really creative things come out of this, and many of the physical publications that we have seen are absolutely beautiful. Whether they're about something like you can see on the slide, the Key Marco cat, which is kind of a cool little object, or books about what do we have? We had one that was on the Key West Railway, and it's just, the variety is just amazing. So those are really a lot of fun, especially for the award committee. Organizational excellence is the next category. It acknowledges historic preservation that's done by a group, a corporation, a neighborhood, or some other like nonprofit organization. It could be things like fundraising or creating events or activities that promote historic preservation, working toward getting new or more creative preservation legislation or politics, either locally or statewide. And then also increasing communities' awareness of preservation through many different aspects, things like publications or events, or even literature, printed materials. Oh, and I get to do this one too, Master Artisan, which is perfect for me since I work in the craft world. This award recognizes individuals who use traditional techniques to achieve authenticity in restoring historic properties. They can be, for whether it's buildings, or I think we've had actually some boatwrights who've worked on historic, like wooden boats. Woodworking, wrought iron. I think we even recognized several years ago a plasterer who's been doing some incredible work all over Florida. Things that just really aren't done very much anymore. I get to do this one too. Okay, Individual Distinguished Service. It's an award that honors a career that's dedicated to preserving our state's history and heritage. It's for people who have worked for a long time, making an impact in their communities. So it's mostly kind of more local work. They're recognized for their work in preservation in their communities as a leader for a significant project or series of projects, whether it's creating historic districts or whatever it is. That's a fun one.
So our next couple of awards deal with education and preservation. And the Roy E. Graham Award is named for Roy Graham, who was a historic preservation architect and educator. He was the Beinecke Reeves Distinguished Professor and Director of the Historic Preservation Program at the University of Florida's College of Design, Construction, and Planning. And this award is designed to recognize professional educators who have made a long-term contribution to the field of historic preservation education. And it's this whole idea that we're transmitting this knowledge on to the next generation. So we look at essentially demonstrated leadership in developing curriculum and also in teaching historic preservation principles within some kind of a formal historic preservation or history program. And that's actually the person on the slide. That's Marty Hilton, who was our last recipient of that award when he was director of, he took over from Roy as the director of historic preservation at UF. So our next award, this is our new one. We're really excited about this one, is to acknowledge a student, a university or college level student who is studying historic preservation, as well as also cultural resource management. And we like students that are nominated by their advisors and have been working within the last 3 years and have some evidence of their outstanding academic performance and commitment to preservation. And also that their work contributes significantly to the body of knowledge around historic preservation. And then this is one of our new awards as well. Our last award category is the Volunteer of the Year Award. So all of our presentations rely on this army of dedicated volunteers who love history and their communities and give of their time, their talent, and their treasure in order to celebrate these heritage of the special places here. So this award is to someone whose contributions have made, for example, it could be someone actually hands-on preservation working in the field. It can be historic preservation education in terms of raising public awareness on a volunteer level. Perhaps it's some research that the volunteer undertook, such as oral history interviews or perhaps documenting cemeteries, for example. And then lastly, advocacy, which is such an important part of our work today in terms of community outreach or public policy research and so forth. So we're looking for a volunteer that's been in that role for a while and has done some significant work within the last 3 years. And their dedication really goes above and beyond perhaps a normal volunteer duty into something that's really exceptional. So that pretty much wraps up the general categories of awards that we have.
All right, thank you, everyone. Let's now take a look at how you can submit a nomination. It's really easy. First, please make sure to read our guide. It's available online. I'm going to post a link to that later on. But it describes all the award categories and also the supporting documents that you would need to submit for each one. So once you gather all of your information and you're ready, you just have to fill out a very short and easy nomination form online. I will receive that and follow up very shortly with a Google Drive link where you can upload all your documents, and feel free to upload, download, make edits there until the deadline. That's when I will download everything and send it to the committee. The committee will review all the nominations, choose certain winners from each category, and you will be informed in June whether your project or individual has been accepted for an award. And all the awardees will be honored during our Preservation on Main Street conference, which is an annual conference we host along with Florida Main Street. This year it's going to take place in Tallahassee, July 10 to July 13. The award ceremony is going to be on Friday, July 12. And if you get to win an award, you also get to meet the Secretary of State. So I hope you do. All right, let's now hear from Laura Lee, who, as I've mentioned earlier, has submitted many successful nominations, and she has some tips to share with you. And she'd also like to talk about why you should submit your project or individual for an award. Laura Lee?
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to speak. I just was sharing yesterday some of the insight on the other side of this equation, which is actually turning in the application for awards. Some of my helpful hints I would consider is to be concise and clear. Kind of put yourself as if you were in the shoes of the people making decisions, right? They have a lot of applications to go through, and I'm sure this year there will be even more now that there is no fee associated with submitting an application. So be concise and clear. Just, you know, it takes time for them to go through all the applications, so give it your best shot. And I would say even like write it as if you won, right? Because that information could ultimately be used for media purposes, right? Be sure to upload all your supporting documents. If there's a weeder, if you will, I would assume that if you don't have a complete application, that would not help you. Whereas others that have everything that was requested are uploaded into the link that you will receive from the Florida Trust once you submit the initial application. Photographs tell so much of the story. And so again, this is literally a snapshot of your project for you to used to impart the influence of your project on the committee as they make these determinations. And again, these could be used for media purposes. So you want to have very clear images. Don't make it difficult for them. Use whatever format they wish, and resolution. And letters of support. These are one of my favorite things. I think this is such a wonderful opportunity for you as a professional or as an organization to reach out to other individuals and groups to garner support for your project. Why apply? Again, raising awareness for your project, for your community, for your organization. Again, this can be used for public relations and marketing purposes. The winners are announced in a formal press release by the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. It's something that you can submit to your local media, and it's just a wonderful way, again, to get the word out about all the wonderful preservation work you're doing. It is a bit of a seal of approval. Again, if you're an organization or a preservation professional such as myself, it's kind of a seal of approval that you're involved in award-winning work. And it does goodwill with your volunteers. I know I personally nominated people and organizations, and just I didn't tell them. I made it a surprise, and it made them feel so good because like for many of my clients, they live in rural areas, and there may not be an organization or a way for them to receive this sort of recognition, especially statewide. So it's such a wonderful opportunity for smaller groups and maybe in more rural areas to receive this recognition. I also like to use the press releases and the goodwill that comes out of these recognitions for future grant applications. As preservationists, you know, our work is never done. And so if you're working on a project in phases, you may be asking for a number of grants. And so this is kind of a nice little piece to add as a supplement to any grant funds you may be seeking.
Thank you, Laura Lee. That was insightful. So as a reminder, please submit your nomination before the deadline, which this year is April 1st. Make sure to read our guide, which is available at floridatrust.org. And again, I will post this in the chat. We really look forward to seeing all your submissions. It's time for our Q&A. So please place your question in the chat or raise your hand, and I will unmute you so that you can ask your question directly. We already have some questions in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and read those first. So Larry says, I'm interested in particular in whether or not these awards could be applied to a preservation effort underway regarding a historic World War II tugboat. Linda, would you like to take this one?
Sure, thank you. So actually, we did have an award to a master artisan a couple of years ago, and it was for actually the restoration of a historic boat, in fact. So that is definitely one category. And I will mention too that sometimes the committee in reviewing awards may actually shift award applications into different categories. And what's nice is our categories are flexible enough that way we can give out more awards, which is always really nice. So I think that might be an opportunity there for that kind of project, for example.
Thank you, Linda. Larry has a second question. Is it possible to nominate an individual for more than one category?
Yes, so they'll probably will, when we review it, depending on the number of applications we have, we may only give out one award to that individual perhaps per year. But, you know, again, certainly if you think that the person is deserving of multiple categories, yeah, please do feel free to apply.
Thank you. Another question that has come in, and we get this one repeatedly, is how many awards per category does the committee give out?
It depends. It depends on how many applications we have, and we kind of judge the projects mostly on their own merit, generally speaking. So sometimes, in some years in the past, we've ranked projects in terms of the sort of top end achievement, if you will, and then a meritorious achievement. So sometimes we've done that as well, depending. But a lot of it depends on how many awards we get per year.
Thank you, Linda. Are there any other questions that we haven't addressed?
Hey, everybody. I had a quick question for Linda and Jody and Laura Lee, those that have been on the committee. Could you give a little more context and share a little bit more about the groups and the folks that we are hope to reach out with our new updated program? I know for me personally, it has been important to think that as we go forward with the program, we are empowering people to consider their project or their work or their product, whatever they're working on, that it is worthy of an award. It is a story worth telling. So could you maybe, Linda or Jody, share an example of who we're hoping to connect and engage with this and who should feel empowered to be making these nominations?
So yeah, I can start, Jody, and then maybe drop in. So our goal was to really broaden our reach with the awards program. Traditionally, it was a lot of sort of professionals working in the field that would apply for the awards. And we really wanted to reach out to community groups and other individuals in their communities that perhaps may not have wanted to apply before. And so really, we're just really trying to expand that reach into different groups in the communities.
And I'm actually hoping that some of the Main Street folks actually submit for these categories as well, because I think in the past they've typically just worked on their categories for their part of the award ceremony that talk about organizational achievement in Main Street and events and things like that. But it'd be great if we could have more Main Street participation in, say, the renovation, restoration, adaptive use categories or in the organizational work.
Yeah, and I think groups working in cultural heritage, that was also really an important audience that we really hope to reach as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think those are great thoughts. Laura Lee, did you want to add to that as well?
Yes, I would love to. I'm glad you mentioned Main Streets because I do think that the Main Streets forget that they can also apply for the Florida Trust Awards. I personally submitted St. Cloud Main Street. I've been working with them since 2000. Many of you preservationists know Paula Stark, who's been the longstanding executive director and is now a powerful voice for preservation on the statewide level as an elected official. But I nominated them for organizational excellence because they've been in existence for more than 2 decades. I cited their local comprehensive plan and made a note of all the things that were identified in that plan years ago and how their Main Street organization has kind of ticked all those boxes and completed those long-term goals. I also mentioned all the National Register designations that they've received since they've been a Main Street program and the Florida historical markers that they've erected. They've also coordinated a lot with their Community Redevelopment agency on their streetscaping. And most importantly, they've built out all their committees. They're working in the 4 points of the Main Street program. So organizationally, if anyone's been involved with Main Street, you know how challenging it can be to keep all of your 4 committees filled out and active and fulfilling the mission of your Main Street program. As far as letters of support for that one, I included a local state representative at the time and also got a letter from their Heritage Museum. I have some other award winners. I made some notes if you'd like me to share any more on what I did for those nominations.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Another one that's highlighted there is Jake Gaither Memorial House. This is a neat project. I call my client the accidental preservationist. He bought a house for taxes and then realized that it was the long home of the famous coach at FAMU, Alonzo Jake Gaither, who lived there for decades with his wife, Sadie. And my client, rather than just flipping it, retained it and created a house museum out of it and received a state appropriation to create ADA upgrades to it. So as part of that nomination, I created a PowerPoint and with very good photographs that would walk the committee through the accessibility upgrades that were conducted in the home with these state funds and how they met the Secretary of Interior standards and adaptively reusing it from a house into a heritage museum. I also
did, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand. You did the PowerPoint as a supplemental documentation for the award nomination?
That is correct. Did not present it to the committee. That's not an opportunity, but I did create a PowerPoint and then I believe I turned it into a PDF and then I uploaded that PDF.
To tell the story.
So, correct. So while having these nice photographs, it's just, I find it easy to create a PowerPoint where you can drop in some simple language. And again, the committee has limited time to look through all these, and I find that that's just an easy way to convey the project information. For educational award excellence, I'm glad that someone asked about a boat, I believe, in this question area. One that I worked with was the Camp Gordon Johnston Association. They have been around for decades. They are mainly retired veterans, and they wanted to create a museum that would commemorate the no longer extant Camp Gordon Johnston that was located in Carabel, Florida. As I said, it's no longer there, but you just would not believe how many thousands of troops were trained there for the amphibious vehicle training that was used when storming the beaches at Normandy and as engaged in theaters such as North Africa and the Philippines. And there's such an interesting story to tell, but there's nothing there, right? So I worked with them on 2 grants from the Florida Division of Historical Resources to create interpretive panels both in their brand new museum and outside of the museum. It's located across from Carabel Beach, which is a very popular tourist destination. It can be enjoyed at all times. And we also supplemented that with a brochure and getting a graphic designer to really pull together the story and the message of the Camp Gordon Johnston site. And again, I think this is a great group that have been working for decades, and they really didn't have a local entity that could provide them with that sort of recognition. So I think it's really important for them to have been recognized, especially as they continue to seek funding for their endeavors. Also featured there is, yes?
No, I was gonna say that's a great example. Thank you for sharing it.
Sure. I have one more if you have time. That's the St. John's Episcopal Church Award for Restoration and Rehabilitation. This is a church that goes back to Florida's territorial days, but the sanctuary itself is more late 19th century. For the letters of support here, I reached out to the Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce. I reached out to the Regional Planning Council. I would encourage any applicant to reach out to their regional planning councils. I think that's just so important to establish that relationship. I know the Appalachia Regional Planning Council that I've been working with, they're always so thrilled and excited to write such good, enthusiastic, personalized letters for the projects that are within their region. I also reached out to the Tallahassee Trust for Historic Preservation. If you have your local preservation entity, they're a good source for letters. And I also reached out to Visit Tallahassee, which is our local Convention and Visitors Bureau that I'm sure will be very involved in the upcoming conference. I demonstrated in, when I say PowerPoint, in the supplemental information. This was a highly technical project that involved the restoration of stained glass windows, waterproofing, putting on a new roof using newer materials, not slate. So this was very much like going by the Secretary of Interior standards. And so I really illustrated the scope of work that was approved by the grants from the Florida Division of Historical Resource to illustrate how well the contractors, architects, and the church complied with those standards. And I think that's very important for projects that are restoration, rehabilitation, or adaptive reuse. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura Lee. Those were great points. And I just wanted to stress one quick thing, and then Daphne, I know we've got other questions that we've had come in, but I think that maybe Linda and Jody and also Laura Lee really stressed the importance of photographs. So there will be an opportunity to upload photographs. And I think, Laura Lee, you were exactly right. Those are so important for telling your story, not only to visually express what the project is or what the individual has done to the committee, but then those are used for marketing purposes. So those will be included in the press release that we send out. But then also Daphne does a wonderful job of social media and our newsletter publishing throughout the year. And we use those photos to tell the story. And I know you all have heard a picture is worth 1,000 words, but that's absolutely true. So please be sure that you're using, nice quality photos. And if you have any questions about what a nice quality photo means, you can ask Daphne and she'll be happy to help you on that. But they're very important tools. Any more questions you want to ask us, Daphne?
Yes, we have another question from Allison. Allison asks, would it be possible to apply if the project is a bit over 3 years? We opened in 2019, but had to close in 2020 and then had to restart.
Linda, what do you think on that? Would you need to know a little more?
So I think, Allison, maybe if you could provide us some more details about the particular circumstance, and then we can get back to you on that question. But thank you for asking.
Daphne, can you unmute her and ask her to explain?
Yes, 1 second. Allison, I've asked you to unmute.
Yeah, because we opened up a museum in a 1906 building that was formerly a school. It's on 5 acres, 6 buildings, the whole thing. But then we opened in 2019 and then had to close in 2020 because of COVID. And we were open on a limited basis. But what we've done, we would like to go get, apply for the award, but we can't do that if it's because it's over 3 years old. And because we had to take a pause in the middle of everything,
So the
was what I was
category,
asking.
yeah, I understand. So the category that you would be applying for is adaptive reuse. So it would be the time that the work was finished. Linda, is that correct? Am I?
Yeah, well, that is correct, and I have to tell you, Allison, we hadn't really thought about a COVID policy, but that's a good point. A lot of us had put our lives on hold for a couple of years there. So if I may, I'd like to kind of run that by the rest of the committee, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
And
It was
I
just a
can-
thought that I had.
Yeah, but we can get back to you definitely within a few days about that question, but thank you very much for asking that.
You're welcome.
Another question we received was clarification regarding the initial nomination form and then where you upload the supporting documents. And so once you submit the nomination form on the website, within a couple days, we will send you a link that's personalized, and it's for your project specifically, where you can upload all the documents. And that's where the majority of your submissions will be. So once you submit the first form, you should receive a confirmation email that's automatic, and then I will reach out within a couple of days to send you the link. But again, if you have any questions or you think you haven't received the email, something went wrong, please reach out to me. I'm going to put my email in the chat.
And Daphne will also send an email to everyone that registered for this that will have all this information as well. So I know it's sometimes a little tricky to copy and paste things from the chat. So don't stress. We will also send a follow-up email with the awards packet with all these wonderful links, where to get started. And of course, then you'll have Daphne's email if you don't already.
Are there any other questions? I think we have time for at least one more. All right, if there are no other questions or comments, we can conclude the lunch and learn in respect of everyone's time. Thank you so much for being here today. We really enjoyed meeting and talking with you. And we really hope to see your submissions soon. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You have my email. We will send a follow-up email with all the links. And this lunch and learn is recorded and will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So thank you, everyone, and good luck with your submissions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye.